all of the doctors here are owned by the hospital system, which just feeds the beast, in my opinion, total Trojan horse. And so I looked very early on to get my son with a direct primary care doctor who could be more holistic, who could give him enhanced care, who wasn't incentivized to feed us into the hospital system.
A safe haven for innovators to go off the rails. Welcome back to Off the Rails, a podcast about the runaway train that is our healthcare system and the innovators working to derail it. I'm your host, Sydney Haytoff, and today we are joined by Rachel McLaughlin. What's up?
Yes.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. It's a long time coming. So what is your perspective on direct primary care? But we can just start with the easy ones.
Okay. So my occupation, I am a VP of Business Development for a pharmacy benefit manager for PBF. Big bad. Yeah. My favorite food is king crab legs. It was actually a fun fact about me. So my mom put me in a pageant when I was in like 6th grade. And that was my fun fact, was that I am not a cheap date. King crab legs are my favorite food. And then my dog, so my husband jokes around that since I work for a PBM that I'm a drug dealer. Our dog's name is Gustavo, and he's a golden retriever. We call him Gus for short.
Yes, love that. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And what about direct primary care? I know you're on the med side of the world. Probably might not be so
Totally.
relevant, but curious what your thoughts are, because
Relevant.
you know the deal. Yeah, exactly. So what am I saying?
Yeah, it's very relevant. So my son, who's 11 years old, has had a host of different health issues. He's got epilepsy, he's got autoimmune issues, he's got 55 allergies, he's got ADHD, he's got a lot of stuff going on. And it's funny, Sydney, in Charlotte, where I live, our hospital systems pretty much monopolize here. So Novant and Atrium Health both dominate. So all of the doctors here are owned by the hospital system, which just feeds the beast, in my opinion, total Trojan horse. And so I looked very early on to get my son with a direct primary care doctor who could be more holistic, who could give him enhanced care, who wasn't incentivized to feed us into the hospital system. And so we started with my son at a direct primary care doctor in Charlotte, who focuses on allergies and curing allergies versus just treating them. So I am a raving fan of direct primary care.
Amen. Wait, so that's very
Yeah.
cool. I want to just double click on the concept of DPC doc focusing or subspecializing in treating and curing allergies. That's cool.
Yeah.
Because when you think about, at least when I think about DPC, and I know this has to be, I can't be the only one, where you think about primary care and the thought is, and this is definitely a misthought, is that, okay, this is primary care, but I might need specialty care more than I need primary care usually. And whether
Yeah.
that's wrong or right, it seems as though, especially in this scenario, that, and I know for a fact that there are a lot of primary care docs that subspecialize in certain areas, and the whole concept of DPC is being able to treat the whole person and
Yeah.
not necessarily needing to go to a specialist or be referred into the beast, as you said,
Yeah.
for every little ailment. So would love to double click on that experience, your experience in that regard.
Yeah. When we were in the hospital health system, like every little thing my son would be referred for, even if it was something that was super minor. And that is not meant to be a pun, because my ex name is Minor and my son's last name is Minor. So not a pun. Every minor little ailment, whether it's you need to check your thyroid or what have you, they will refer you to somebody else, when a general primary care doctor could easily do that themselves. I may have just gone off track.
No,
But
the referring for, they refer everyone
most
out and they can do it
doctors,
themselves,
yeah.
and especially
Most doctors can do it, right? They can. They're more than equipped to do it. They've done rotations. They can deliver babies. They can, even if they're general practitioners, they can do gastro. They have done a subspecialty in pretty much any specialty. They know enough about it to be dangerous. And so the doctor that we chose in particular, who is a PCP, she originally went to school to be a pediatrician, and then she got a subspecialty in allergy because she was so passionate about it and about the fact that there are so many people that suffer with allergies who really don't have to. But unfortunately, in our country, it's much more lucrative to treat than it is to cure. And so we will not cover through insurance certain treatments that can actually cure.
Yeah. And what have you seen? What has worked for your son? Any curative treatment that you
Hmm.
can speak to?
Yeah, so there's one called sub-immunolingual therapy. It's called SLIT. And basically what it is, it's like allergen and you dilute it like crazy. So I think you start off at, and don't quote me on this, but you start off with 10 millionths to one of a particle, and then you do 3 drops under the tongue throughout the day. And you continue doing it for a couple years, and it desensitizes somebody to an allergen. So for instance, my son had 55 allergies. We were nuts. The first time we found out Jack had an allergy.
So you're essentially microdosing. So, hold on, so you're essentially microdosing allergen for yourself?
Allergens, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's really funny because, like, when you talk to doctors about it, they're like, yeah, microdosing. And I'm like, yeah, like, same concept. But
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
it's a way to desensitize kids. It's mainly for kids, especially with like very severe allergies like peanuts or tree nuts or sesame, which my son has.
Mm.
Believe it or not, is like a really like big allergy right now, and it's in everything. It's in every bread, every cracker, Mediterranean food, Asian food. And so for us to get it under control is like a huge thing.
Yeah, wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
What is the DPC doc's name as a quick plug? Because she's doing such a great job.
Dr. Nikila Schroeder.
Got it. Okay, we'll throw
Yeah.
those in they call them the cliff notes and the post notes,
Yeah.
story notes, whatever. Awesome. Interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess so you have DPC in addition to standard coverage. Does Benecard hook you up with a nice Benecard with the Bene package? Use their own
So
PBM for the
they
benefits
do.
package?
They do use their own PBM for their benefits package, but I am not on our benefits. My husband has really good benefits, and so we're on his benefits.
Okay, got it, got it, got it. Okay.
Hmm.
Have you ever compared the PBM offering from Benecard to whatever you got through your husband's deal?
Not the contract, but
Yeah, just to be like, hey,
I know
Benecard,
what our
what's up?
copays. Yeah, I know what our like tiers and copays are versus each other. Those are pretty comparable.
Got it. So
Yeah.
then what would you say is the differentiator for Benecard as compared to some of the other, would you call Benecard an independent PBM? Is it a pass
Yeah.
through? What's the deal with Benny card?
Yeah, so Benecard is, and it's funny that you said Benny, because when we talk about it internally, we talk about if Benny were a person, what would Benny be like? Benecard
Benny.
was started by a pharmacist,
Okay. Okay.
and
That's
it's
good.
all about putting members and clients first. Thing we do is like a clinical approach. And so it's trying to make sure that there's really no like fraud, waste, abuse within a health plan. It's not rebate driven formularies, it's transparent. Yeah.
So would you call it
Trying to do the right thing.
yeah, no, amen. Look, kudos.
Mhm.
Would you call it is that called a pass through PBM? Because I've heard
Yeah,
the
I
word
mean,
pass through tossed around, but then someone recently
yeah.
actually was I forget his first name, Cohen, one of the co-founders of PillPack, told me the other day on a Twitter
Mm,
thread, DM, that all pass through means is that you're not getting hit with there's no spread necessarily, but they're not defining what the actual price you're going to get. So it's like a spread, but not really. I don't know. The way it was unclear to me, but I'm trying to still get a handle
yeah.
on what this pass through concept is.
Everything in PBMs is clear as mud. Even when I was a broker, I thought the same thing. I was like, I will RFP 6 different brokers and they all give me different prices. And I'm like, I can't figure any of this out. Our pricing is either traditional or where we have rebates and whatnot, or it's transparent where we do pass through. But we also, in our model, do guarantees. So clinical guarantees, which
Okay,
not everybody
interesting.
does. Yeah.
And is that a guarantee, clinical
Mm.
guarantee with regards to outcomes or costs or both?
Are we supposed to be talking about you?
We can. I'm just curious because I basically I want to I like to give the listeners a sense for what some of the core components of a health plan are. We've
Yeah.
spoken with a number of surgeons, spoken
Yeah.
with a couple network builders, and you're our first PBM representative. And PBM hot topic in the industry right now. And it's one thing that I've been curious about is this pass-through concept because, and look, we'll pivot if you want. Pass-through is something that I've been saying or referring to when referring to Michi and our model, and that we
Yeah.
don't take a spread when
Awesome.
we don't take a spread when we're making our network available to our health plan partners.
Yeah.
And I thought that pass-through meant a good thing, and someone essentially challenged me and was like, it's
Yeah.
just another way of saying the same crap.
Depends. So I'm going to give you a lay of the land first, Sydney, in order to share with you basically how our healthcare system got to where it is today.
Got the glasses off.
So
Let's go.
glasses off. We're ready to like really get down to the nitty gritty. So I wrote a chapter in a book called There's a Whole Lot of Money in This Mofo. And it's all about fraud, waste, and abuse in the healthcare system. And my chapter is called Hindsight is 2020. And what my chapter is about is basically how our healthcare system got as messed up as it is today. And normally I would say a different word,
Oh,
but I'm not sure that.
you let it fly. It's go. Our podcast is off the rails. I don't give a shit about cursing.
Yeah.
Everyone who's ever spoken to me on a work call or on this podcast knows that I have a colorful mouth. So it is okay to speak
Well,
your
I'm
mind.
totally chill with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pre-ACA, we used to have lifetime maximums. Did you know that?
I
Okay.
don't think I did.
Okay. So you used to have lifetime maximums of $1 or $2 million
Wow. Okay.
per person for life.
And that's for everything,
And
all spend.
for everything. That's for the
Oh, wow.
whole
No shit.
shebang.
I did not know that. Wow. Okay.
So you used to hear about a lot of people going medically bankrupt.
Okay.
You
I
used
have
to hear
heard
about it
that.
all the
Interesting.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
People would have like brain cancer. People would have like preemie twins. Like things would happen that were really high cost claims, and shit would hit the fan. And now the sun is like just setting, and so it's making me look like I'm a vampire or something. But so you used to have that. The Affordable Care Act, even though it totally fucked up our healthcare system in a lot of ways, it did some good things. So what it did is it allowed us to no longer have, this is going to be crazy for me right now. I can't believe that this is doing this. It allowed people who had really significant severe claims to no longer have to go to medically bankrupt because it took the 1 or 2 million, made it unlimited.
So hold on, real quick question. So medical bankruptcy, that means you just can't get care and you die, or it's on you to fund it yourself.
That means you go that means you go bankrupt. That means like you are on the bill for, you're on the hook
You're
for
on
the
the hook
rest
for
of
all
any
of it.
bill.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So
Correct.
wow.
You never
Okay.
have insurance again. You are the
Oh
bank.
wow. Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a big
Yeah.
deal.
So
And so Affordable Care Act took that and it said, no, we're going to make that an unlimited max. It was amazing for some people, but what it did was it opened the floodgates, Sydney, for health insurers and pharmaceutical manufacturers to be like, oh my God, the pool of money we had to pull from just got
limited.
significantly deeper.
Wow.
And so,
No one talks about that in the context of this. That's fucking crazy. Wow.
Sydney, this is what you needed me as a guest.
Yeah. No. Listen. Wow.
So what it did, that Affordable Care Act did some good things. Dependents could be on the plan until they're 26 years old. You can't discriminate. So that was awesome. But what this did is it basically screwed health plans in a lot of ways because, and so did the medical loss ratio, because now you have drugs that are millions of dollars. We never had that before. And so where we used to see health plans have pharmaceuticals be anywhere between 18 to 25% of total spend, including medical, then that brings to 100. Now you have plans where pharmacy spend is like 40, 50, upwards of 60% because drugs are so expensive.
And that's because they said, okay, there's a blank check now, and we can make it whatever we want. And okay, do you have any examples? And not to put you on the spot, I'm just super curious. Examples of super expensive drugs, maybe for a common or incredibly acute condition, lifesavers, where we could look at the price before the ACA and the price after the ACA to get a sense for what the inflation was once they took away the limits.
There's never been any regulation, Sydney. So that's like the caveat that I'll give you. There's never been regulation. And right now, actually, the FDA is under a lot of heat because we have so many drugs that are like scarce and sold out. There's 323 shortages of drugs right now.
Mhm,
Some of them are like chemotherapy drugs and like other life-saving drugs. Some of them are like ADHD medications,
mhm.
but nobody can give a definitive reason for why we have this shortage. And so the FDA is trying to get a lot more control of it. And in my opinion, and this is just my own personal opinion, nobody else has said this. So I don't want anybody getting mad at me anywhere that I may work or anywhere else. I personally think this was the way for the FDA to get their foot in the door to say we want to have regulation. So companies like Mylam years ago took the price of an EpiPen from $50, $60 to $800 overnight. So for a family who has a child who has an allergy, oftentimes you need 4 EpiPens. You need one for at home, you need one for mom, you need one for dad, you need one for school. So for a family making $15 an hour, they just went from having a $200 bill when they're on a high deductible health plan to $3,600. If I did $3,200.
And this is why
Yeah.
that scumbag Shkreli jacked up the price of whatever, what was it, insulin or whatever that drug was overnight. Wow. No one talks
Yeah.
about the other side. No one talks about why or what was his justification or what the context was that somewhat justified or allowed for that.
So the other way that it gets justified, Sydney, is that
Interesting.
our
Wow. Because
blow
yeah,
your
I've
mind
heard
with some of this.
you hear about medical bankruptcy, and I didn't realize really what it meant. Definitely not
Yeah.
that there were lifetime caps. But when you put a lifetime cap, yeah, that makes sense. They're essentially incentivized, if not required, to limit the cost of things because there's only so much of the pie that they can eat
Yeah.
up. So it's
Plus,
they're forced.
how are you
Holy
gonna get
shit.
money from somebody who's terminal for terminal
Right.
stage 4 cancer? You're not. So now it's just totally opened up those floodgates. But to your point, so the other problem with it is, and I actually have been invited to the White House under the Trump administration to talk to Alex Azar and sit on his blueprint for lowering the cost of pharmaceuticals. It was
Go,
very
go,
cool.
go.
I was invited to the Rose Garden and there were like
Oh, you
50
did. Oh,
people
sick.
sat behind Ivanka Trump, got to meet her. And my buddy
Mm.
James called me and he was like, oh my God, your picture is in like People magazine or something like 2 months later. I kid you not. She was wearing reflective sunglasses. Her and I are talking, and there's like a clear image of me
That's so cool.
in her sunglasses. Yeah, it was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I was on like Fox News and stuff. Yeah, it
Wow.
was very cool.
Legend. Yeah. Wow.
No big deal. Yeah.
So wait,
Okay.
so what'd you get done there? What'd you
I
do? What'd
mean,
you do? You hit him over the head and
so
were
they
like,
wanted, yeah, they wanted to talk to me because I've been so passionate about lowering the cost of care. I think that it's interesting that a lot of employers throw up their hands and are like, there's nothing we can do about it. A claim is a claim. I'm like, it's not. If you have a $10,000 claim, it's not the same as a $100,000 claim. Yes, you still have the claim, but a lower claim is a lower claim. And so it was very cool. They talked about one of the big hot topics they talked about was international sourcing of drugs because we manufacture drugs here and because we want to pay for all the R&D, we give them to other countries for significantly cheaper and we charge our own population in the US significantly more.
and then it becomes this like cycle where it's we make them here,
Yeah.
outsource it, they make them there, they do it for cheaper
Yeah.
because I guess they're not subject to our patents, whatever. They then send it back here. I was speaking to someone at the FMMA conference a couple weeks ago, and he overnights, or this group overnights meds from
That's
London.
what I do. Yeah. I
Wow,
get my son's EpiPens from Canada. I get them $50 all in shipped for 2.
wild. Yeah, and I was wondering, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
so there's no like international, I don't know, restrictions around that? And he's nope.
Mm-mm.
Damn,
No,
wild.
I actually have been to Tijuana before to look at medical facilities there to see if I wanted to send my clients there. The
It's wild.
facilities are gorgeous, even though they have a public health system, nationalized healthcare. There's a lot of privatized and it's very like upscale and the hospitals look more like hotels. And they've got gorgeous artwork and you can have BMW X8 pick you up at the airport at San Diego, take you over there. administer the drugs that you need, and you get brought right back to San Diego. And it can be done for pennies on the dollar of what we pay.
Yeah, I have a friend. I lived in San Diego for a few years, and I have a friend who is in the medical tourism business. She was a
Mm,
navigator for
yeah,
that exact offering where, yeah, people come in, they shuffle them down to TJ and bring them back. But it's wild. Like
yeah.
I want to bring more of that treatment back to the US because it seems two things.
Mm.
One, there was one hospital that I connected with through her down there. And this is in the very, very beginning of Michi. And you look online at their reviews, and some of these reviews were basically non-starters for me. And this is a hospital that she's ranting and raving about, and a core facility everyone goes to. And
Yeah,
these reviews are talking about missing limbs and this and that. No,
yeah,
it's okay, not worth that. But the point is that the inflation here traditionally is so high. People are exploring options outside of the US for price
totally.
savings when it's not really necessary in so many instances, right? It's you just have to know how to play the game, which is part of the problem, obviously. It shouldn't be
Yeah.
an issue of knowing how to play the game. But I guess the point is that with the right tools, and as those tools become more publicly available or widely known, it should even things out because there
Hopefully.
are ways to access affordable treatment here. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
knowing how. It's crazy.
Yeah. It just takes a lot of smart people in a room. Figure it out and bring it to the masses. I think that the problem is that the moment you're on to something, Sydney, in our healthcare system, there are a million participants that are profiting off of our system, right? That don't want you to succeed.
Yep. Yeah, because they're
Any
taking
revenue
their
that you
cut.
take, correct. Any revenue you take away from them is cannibalizing their market. And so there are going to be a lot of people who are going to have deeper pockets than you who will try and stop you along the way, not because you're not doing the right thing, but because you're impeding their ability to make profit.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, and look, that's why it's cool to
Wow.
hear people like Cuban saying that he can't be bought and that he wants to fuck up the pharma industry. It's because I feel like, to your point, unless you take, and this is what I saw when I first got
This is
into
why
the,
Mark Cuban needs to hire people like us, because we'll fuck shit up with him.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, hire or partner with, but
Touche.
yeah, that may or may not be in the
Yeah.
works already. But no, but I saw this when I first entered the space, is that there are so many pieces and so many layers of abstraction and cuts being taken out of the pie that unless you take a very broad, or not broad, aggregated approach
Yeah.
to solving the problem, aggregated and infrastructure approach to solving the problem, good luck. Because you're swimming upstream, and either way, you're swimming
Yeah.
upstream with a weights tied to you. But at least if you take
And sharks coming at you.
yeah, exactly, and someone's shooting at you from the side. But at least if you take a broad approach, it's harder or it's easier to game the different components, if you will. It's
Yeah.
easier to maneuver if you take the umbrella approach, which seems counterintuitive even when I say it out loud, but it's helped us.
Good. So you asked me a question that I never answered, and you asked about the drugs and the insulin thing. The other problem with our healthcare marketplace, or just like our procedural problem in general, is that when people get patents on drugs, it's for a significant amount of time. And in
Mhm.
order for new entrants to come on the market, there's a very specified period of time.
Yeah, it's
And
20 years, I
it,
think, is the patent.
yeah, it's 20 years. And so it monopolizes and really pigeonholes people into buying one product, which totally sucks. It's not good for the consumer. The only one it's good for are the manufacturers.
Yeah, and look, like I understand the benefit to them and the incentive for them to have, or for the incentive of, and the reason for the patent system costs a
Yeah.
lot of money in R&D to come up with those drugs, and they want them to be compensated. I think it's a little bit outdated, probably in timeline, especially given the rate of innovation that we've been seeing in recent years. But what I'm getting at is been interesting to hear people talk about biosimilars and
Yeah.
how though that represents an opportunity, biosimilars, international sourcing, but
Yep.
ways of getting around the patent process or
Yeah.
restrictions, if you will. how do you guys, or how have you seen that play out in terms of cost savings?
So I am not a doctor. I will say that. I might play one on TV, but I am not a doctor. We see plans all the time that are trying to switch people to either generics or biosimilars. If there's a cost savings, we're always looking for value. So highest quality, lowest cost. The challenge that I've heard, and I don't know this to be 100% of a fact, because again, I'm not a doctor, but is that if you switch to a biosimilar, you have to basically stay on that biosimilar for the rest of your life,
Oh, interesting.
which seems like a long time.
Yeah. And is that
We're in our
because
30s. That seems like a very long time.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
because of I guess in some instances, your body gets so accustomed to that drug or that
Yeah.
concoction of or version of
Yeah.
the drug that you can't switch. Wow, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Huh.
So either way, they're figuring out how to get a stronghold on you and not let go. Similarly, the Affordable Care Act, I talked about how dependents were allowed to stay on the plan, unlimited max, no discrimination. Because before you could have things like pregnancy. Okay. I have 4 kids. Been pregnant a couple times. And if you didn't have health insurance previously and you found out you were pregnant, that's a pre-existing condition. So before the ACA, insurance could have said, nope, we're not going to cover it. It's a pre-existing condition.
But was it cheaper because of the dynamics before the ACA? I don't think so. I've been in the spaces since
Probably
before there.
not.
Is that
Although
different?
premiums have gone up and whatnot, the cost of care has definitely gone up, but not with a labor and delivery like tenfold, something to make it absolutely astronomical. But one other bad thing from the Affordable Care Act is the medical loss ratio. I think we talked about this, the MLR, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I
the medical
mean,
loss ratio says for every dollar that you collect, you have to pay 85 cents for claims. And you can keep 15% as a carrier for profits. Well, Sydney, when a health plan is supposed to be good stewards of plan dollars, they make more money in that scenario.
mhm.
They can
Oh
only have more claims.
yeah, yeah. Oh, you said how
The
do they make
only
more money?
way,
You
yeah.
you said
If you're
yeah,
getting the same piece of a pie, the only way that you get more is to have a bigger
make the
pie.
pie bigger.
Make the pie bigger. And so the Affordable Care Act, although it was trying to regulate how much profit carriers could make off of plans, what it did is it had the fox guarding the hen house. And it said, please just make sure for every dollar you collect that you pay out 85 cents. So what do they do? Trend increases. So
Yeah.
now there's by no fault of a plan's own, you could have a rock star year. Your claims loss ratio could be amazing. You're still getting that trend increase of, let's call it like 9 to 11%, which is nuts. I would love to do a really bad job at my job and get a 9 to 11% raise every year. Like it's a racket.
Literally a racket. And the sickest part of
Yeah.
that is a lot of times the docs don't see the benefit of those
No,
increases. And
no.
from what I've seen, especially now getting more into the buy side of healthcare and the dynamics around TPAs and PBMs, and I think this dynamic exists on both ends. I'd love to dig into this for a little bit. Is this concept of, I refer to it as a spread, but on the TPA and services side, the percentage of savings, where if it happens in both the in-network and the out-of-network environment for doctors and services, but let's focus on the out-of-network world that's not as evil, where there's an absence of a contract and a set fee schedule for a set price for a service. The doc submits their charge master, which everyone knows is an inflated rate, intended to offset the lack of payments that they're suffering from
Do you
the
know what I like to
boongas.
think of? Do you know what I like to think of that as? When you're like in a shopping mall and you go to Zales or something and you see a diamond ring that's like the shittiest diamond ring you've ever seen in your life and it has like $14,000 on it. And you're like, the hell? That ring is $14,000. That is a charge
Nine.
master.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
exactly
yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
And
When
then
they
you get
have
an
the
80%
90,
discount on it.
yeah, exactly. 80% discount. Oh my God, please. Yeah. 100%. And
Yeah.
an artificially fake number. And so when absence of a contract,
Totally.
someone gets a lower price, which they were going to give anyway. But if someone secures that rate for you, the securer of the rate, whether it be the TPA or a navigator or some intermediary, they're taking the percentage of savings. And
Yeah,
okay, it's still not as much as the charge master, but most people don't realize, a lot of people at least still don't realize that the charge master is fake. And so
I know.
that concept, to me, the percentage of savings, fine. There, it's actually a percentage of savings. Where it goes from a percentage of savings to a ruthless spread, in my opinion, is in the in-network world, where you have the self-funded employer space, self-insured employer, where they're contracting with ASOs, BUCAs, or
Yeah.
independent TPAs who rent those BUCA networks or other networks. And they're renting networks for access to doctors and access to discounts. In some instances, the discounts that they're getting are not the same discounts that the fully insured folks get.
Oh, for
Right. So
sure.
so Cigna increases or jacks up the rate that they charge to employers. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure Multiplan and PHS do the same thing. And okay, fine, still wrong, but I get it. But then you have the ASOs or TPAs or whoever it is. I've seen it on the TPA side, but it's really the ASOs who do this from what I've seen, and I have it in writing, that will charge a percentage of savings fee, which
Based off
takes
of the
the,
charge master, right?
yes, but the
Yeah, it's
worst part
bullshit.
is, to me,
Yeah.
they're taking a percentage of savings that already
Off
exists.
of a
They didn't,
fictitious number.
but they didn't even do any extra work. Like
Dude, I know.
they're not doing any extra work. It's a
I have
network that they already
argued
have.
with numerous TPAs about this.
It doesn't
I'm
matter.
like,
Oh my
wait a
God, it
minute.
doesn't make
I'm like, wait a
sense.
minute. I'm like, explain this to me. Maybe my feeble mind doesn't understand this. I'm like, we already both agreed this starting number is bullshit, right? They're like, yeah. I'm like, so how are you going to take a percentage of that bullshit number? Please explain it to me, because maybe I'm just not getting something.
Yeah, but yes,
You
but
know who you are, by the
how?
way, who I just thought of? Hang on. I have to tell you, you're like the Joe Rogan of healthcare podcasts right now.
Yeah, good. That's what
That's what
that's
you are.
yeah, good. Let's keep it going with that.
Yeah, compliment.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's dope.
Love it.
Okay, let me calm down for a second
Squirrels.
because I get
Squirrels.
excited. I get excited about this topic.
I know.
Is the network, right? The network that everyone hates now. Everyone vilifies networks. Ooh, networks this, they're bad, restrictive, whatever. Okay, I get it, right? They're narrow networks, also a function of the ACA in many instances, fine. When I talk about network, it's literally just contract, right? The networks, by definition, are a discounted rate in exchange for aggregated demand and prompt payment. Literally the
Yep.
definition of a network. And if you just consider network debt, which it was as a result of managed care, it was one of the managed care mechanisms measures, they're
Yeah.
not so fucking bad. They're intended to contain costs, but they're not so bad, right? All it is doing
Yeah.
is making a contract, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Then so the contract is this discounted rate
Yeah.
that the network has. If the network has the discount and they're making that discount that they already have available to the self-funded employer who's using them for access to their discount, then why the fuck are they charging a fee? Yes,
Well,
albeit for an
most of
artificial
them,
number. The network's already there. You're not doing any extra work at all.
yeah. So most of them don't charge a percentage for in-network claims. Most of them just charge a percentage for out-of-network claims.
I used to think that. I used to think that. But then I started hearing this more and more from brokers. Then I started,
Interesting.
and when I heard it, I was like, no way, this can't be true, because that's a huge wedge for Michi, right? Where we become
Yeah.
the pass-through network who doesn't take a spread, which should be fucking table stakes, but we
Yeah.
don't take the spread. Cool. So we have a big wedge, because that's why we drive so much values, because I'm not taking fucking chunk, which the spread is literally just added piece that you're charging to the fucking employer. So cool, get it. That, makes my business all the more valuable, but still, it's wrong. What the thing that gets me is, oh, sorry. So I would start hearing about this more and more, and so I started asking about it more. And we've been working with TPAs more, and they're becoming distribution channel for our platform, and we essentially carve
So
a
let me
portion of
ask you
the
something.
function. No, so I had a TPA show me
Okay.
an ASO contract. from Anthem that shows clear as day. Because I was over here thinking, oh, they're hiding it. This is some thievery. That's clear as day. It's on whatever page.
So maybe that's why I don't know as much about it, because I don't do any ASO work, nor have I ever. I always work with independent TPAs, and ASOs, I believe all day long, would try and maximize revenue and do shady shit.
So yeah, I have. I want to see if any independent TVs have this in their contracts. So
Well, I
any
doubt they
employers,
do now that you've said this.
me neither. Any employers, please, and I'll include a screenshot so you can see what it looks like, so you know what to look for in your contract. Look, because if it's in there, you're at risk, because
Yeah.
this is a fiduciary liability, obviously with the Consolidated Appropriations Act. Thank
Yeah,
you,
that's
government.
crazy.
But the point is though that, so I started asking more. This TPA showed it to me clear as day. A couple weeks before that, I spoke with a fairly well-known ERISA attorney who told me, oh yeah, the spread, most TPAs, independent TPAs that I work with, that 30, 40, 50% of their revenue is made up of that spread.
Oh,
So
that's
you take that,
crazy.
you take down, or you take that away, you might, there might be a problem with the TPAs.
So do you
So
think it's from so do you think it's from like hospital charges, or what is it from? They wouldn't
no,
do it maybe they would do it
I
on
think it's
smaller
across,
claims, but I would
I
think
think it's
it'd be
across the
more
board.
lucrative to do on larger.
I think it's across the board, because at least from the way that it was written on that one contract, it says across the board, any traditional, it was a traditional network savings fee. Any claim that is processed in network and has an in-network discount, and for Anthem, that's all of them, we are taking 50% of the difference
That's nuts.
between the charge master and the allowed amount, the pre-existing discount rate. So they're literally taking 50%, which in many instances, and this is interesting because I started to see this ratio more and more now that I saw what to look for. 50%, if you take a simple carpal tunnel surgery, as I like to use this example, because $2,000 enhanced
Yeah.
fair surgeon price, 10 grand that they probably charge a carrier just because of the charge master. And so the discount there, the traditional network discount, $8,000. So this ASO in this context is making $4,000, and the doctor's making $2,000. The employer
I
is
know.
being charged $6,000, and the doctor's making $2,000, and the fucking ASO is making $4,000. In what world
Well,
does that make sense?
so the crazy thing is I've seen this in RVP a lot. So reference-based pricing is using a percentage of Medicare. So some type of Medicare multiple, it can be 130%, could be 150%. But we see in RVP that those claims are always a percentage of savings for the most part. But
Yeah, out of
it's
network.
interesting that you're bringing this up, because I have not seen this yet with independent TPAs. But if you do know this to be true, you've just lit a fire under my ass to like
Oh no,
inquire about this and see what's
I promise you it's true. I'll send you the screenshots so that
totally.
you
I
can,
believe you.
because, and I started digging more. And so I basically got connected with a couple of folks who have a lot of proof around this. And I started
So what the hell
really,
are you doing about it?
my company is structured in a way so that there will be no more spread. The TPAs that we work with know that
Well,
when
what
we
if you
process the
were to be
claims,
your own? No. But what if you were to be your own TPA?
yeah, that's a possibility. It's not something that I'm thinking
Put your
about
money
now.
where your mouth is, dog.
Look, I can drive as much value, I can drive more value as a vendor to TPAs faster
Okay.
than I can as a TPA by myself. I believe.
You just said
Because
faster. So a wise person once told me when I was starting my business, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with a team. So it's interesting that you say fast is with a team versus what you could do.
yeah, I
Something to ponder.
yeah. Look, it's
Hmm.
definitely an option. It's something that's come up quite a bit. And
Mm.
there are a lot of regulations and a lot of other things.
You yeah, you don't need to explain yourself to me.
It's not something that I'm looking to do anytime soon. Is it an
You
option?
you just
Sure.
got rosy like I'm peeking under the
Sure,
curtains.
sure. No, it's the light. The light's coming in. It's getting dark. It's hot. It's the shadow. It's the reflection. Yeah, I would rather facilitate first party administration than be a
Got it.
third party administrator,
Got
because
it.
I believe the future that I see is plan admins. And when I say plan admins, this could be a broker, this could be a benefits person at an employer, the CFO, CBO, whatever, the chief something benefits. They should be able to manage the plan themselves, and maybe
Yeah.
with a couple of support staff, but if healthcare is one of the largest cost items on your P&L, then obviously,
Normally I can just behind payroll, but it is one of the number two. Yeah.
there you go. Then number two, then it makes sense to have something or someone dedicated to that. And a lot of folks do, a lot of groups
Yeah.
do. That person, there's no reason at all, in my opinion, why one person with the right technology can't manage the plan, right? As long
So,
as there's automation, the claims concept, you don't need a
yeah,
person to manage credit card processing. And I'm not saying that our model is credit cards, but the way that plans and transactions should work, it
yeah.
should be standardized to the extent that it is seamless like credit card transactions. And so
You mean just like real time or what?
real time based on predefined prices,
Yeah.
definitive pricing, real time that triggers alerts in different systems based on other configurations, whether it
Yeah.
be budgeting or guiding you to certain things because of the spending that you did. That is what
Yeah.
we're building. And to me,
We call
that's
that steerage.
yeah, a lot of people, some people think that steerage is a dirty word. It's wild. Steerage, it's called spade a spade. It is steerage. You're steering people to the high value options, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
I call that white glove service.
thank
It's like
you.
it's like a Ritz-Carlton type of experience.
Concierge, baby. That's it. Like it doesn't have
It's a
to be seen
concierge.
so negatively. And so many people dig in to specific nomenclature that it's like you're navigating landmines and you can't even, in some instances, you say one word, not with it not meaning not having a negative meaning in the
Yeah.
or connotation the way that they're thinking, and it could be a non-starter for the conversation.
But that's our culture we have right now, Cindy. I
Yeah.
will post stuff on LinkedIn with a positive quote for the day about having a positive mindset. Somebody will write me a message telling me I'm an asshole because I don't consider people with mental health issues. And I'm like,
Oh man.
what?
Wow,
I
that's
am
wild.
literally just trying to spread positivity. I'm like, how can I possibly have people tell me what an asshole I am for this? But I have a question for you, even though I should have asked this, even though I'm not hosting the podcast. I should have asked this a while ago. But what does Mishi Health? What does it even stand for? Why the name Mishi?
So Mishi is short for Misha Beirach. It's a Hebrew
Okay,
prayer for healing.
amazing.
And yeah, it's coming up. I had the idea for Mishi a long time ago, 12 years ago at this point. Didn't start working on it until 3. And when I say working, like lightly on the side of my desk, but I realized that I would have to come up with a name, and I was
And
looking for
off the
things
rails was not a good idea.
sim off the rails came after, but I was looking for a meaningful, short, catchy words that I want Mishi to be a verb someday.
Yeah.
And gonna compare, but Google, Uber, those become verbs. I think we have a very wild opportunity to become a verb. And that was my wildest dream back then. And so I was like, okay, this could be cool. Misha Berak, Mishi. Okay, it's catchy. Like people aren't going to be able
Cool.
to pronounce it early on, and no one can,
Yeah.
but that's fine. You all will. You you all will. So
Misha, me.
Mish,
Yeah.
yeah, please, yeah, keep it coming.
Yeah.
That I hear that all day, every day, and it's look, that's my fault, but that's part of it.
Yeah.
Is
Well, it's a
I will
conversation starter too.
exactly. We will teach. Team will teach everyone the ways of healthcare, value driving ways of
Love it.
healthcare, and we'll start by teaching you how to pronounce our company name.
That's amazing. You should have t-shirts that show how to phonetically say it.
Yes, say Mishi. It's funny. We put on under the logo in some instances, it says the quotations say, or it says say and then quotations Mish dash E. And I think we'll probably lean into that a little bit more because I like our name. We'll see.
You should
There's a
have underneath it rhymes with fishy.
so it's funny. I took the say and then the Mish E from
Yeah.
Bowie Health. Shout out
Okay.
to Andrew Lee. And I like on their homepage how they have say Boo E. And I think they even have like a boo, like a ghost or something. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's funny.
yeah.
I was thinking like buoy, like a boating buoy.
Yeah, I think that was their point then because that's how it's spelled.
Yeah.
But
Oh, interesting.
yeah, but I guess people don't know how to pronounce boating
Yeah.
buoy.
To each his own.
but that's weird.
I still think you could do something funny with fishy because
Fishy,
our healthcare system's so like fishy
fishy.
and so sketchy
Okay.
that like you're the like antithesis of that.
Thanks. Trying to be.
Yeah.
It's wild.
What's the opposite of fishy? Mishy.
Ooh.
Marketing wheels are gone.
Wow.
I'll
Okay.
be here all day.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, we gotta figure something out because yeah, we're popping our head out a little bit more, and it's
Amazing.
cool. I got my 3x3x3 with Chris Fisher
Chris
going on with
Fisher.
Benefits Ally. Got that
Yeah, yeah,
recording
yeah.
tomorrow. That'll be cool.
Chris Fisher
Yes.
loves dogs. If you have a dog, you have to show him a picture of it.
Okay.
You
Will
don't
do.
have
I
a
do.
dog.
I
You don't have
do.
a dog,
Yeah,
do you?
I do.
What kind
She's a black German Shepherd Husky mix, about 80
of
pounds.
Oh,
She looks like a wolf.
what's her name?
Desi, short for Destiny, because the second I saw her, I knew it was my destiny to adopt her, and I'm super fucking corny.
Yeah.
Her middle name is Boo because I adopted her on Halloween,
Does he
2017.
Will?
Desi Boo. She's awesome.
Well, maybe she's like your girlfriend now.
she's passed out. She's passed out on the floor. No comment. She's passed out on the floor. Yeah, she's the woman in my life.
Light
right
of
now.
your life.
That's it.
Amazing.
That's all
I
we
love
need.
it. Yeah.
We're laser focused here. Laser focused on Mishy. That's it.
I can tell.
Blowing up my spot. Yeah. Well,
You've been on this podcast with me for an hour. Does it feel like an hour?
no, I was just gonna wrap us up. But no, it doesn't feel like an hour. I could talk like this shit all day, frankly.
Yeah, I know.
It's bad.
It's funny when people ask me about the healthcare system, I have always been a very passionate person, but I feel like I get so fired up because my buddy John Augustine at WellNet, he talks about how PPOs have perpetrated the greatest heist of all times.
Yeah.
And it gets you so fired up when you realize how messed up our system is on purpose and how confusing it is and how like all of us are the ones who are contributing to it. And we've all kind of had this Stockholm syndrome where we like believe that the Blue Cross Blue Shield logo equals health insurance or equals healthcare rather. And it doesn't.
It equals bank
It's
robber, literally bank
yeah.
robber. And hold
We
on,
don't use any
can we talk?
we
Can we
don't
touch
use
on
any
that?
other insurance that way.
Yeah, literally.
I know.
PPOs. See, this is another thing that everyone hates on the networks. It's the MCOs that are perpetrating the biggest heist. It's the managed care organizations. Okay, they're the ones who own the PPO networks. I just want to clarify.
You gotta wrap this up. You're gonna get on tailspin.
I just want to clarify. I just want to clarify. Okay, so MCOs are the bad guy. PPOs aren't so bad. All right, preferred providers ain't so bad. Having a preferred provider relationship, that's like remnants of a free market. You're a preferred provider. When you're a preferred provider, you get discounts. Okay.
Yeah.
You get and that's the preferred relationship that I want to see take hold is these direct preferred relationships so that when you're an employer and you have more buying power, then you can maybe negotiate a better deal with the local health system because you're going to send them a bunch of patients and maybe you'll make them your preferred health system in the region because in exchange for a lower price. Like that's how the free market works. In every other industry.
Capitalism, yeah.
Thank you. So except for this one, preferred ain't so bad. This is MCOs, this is managed care organization, and managed care isn't so bad either. It's really not. I used to think that it was. It's the apparatus. It's the intermediaries. It's this fucking percentage of savings. Because I think going back to the whole thing, and we will wrap it up. Going back to the whole thing though, where I talk about that ratio. If what I'm saying from what I've seen is true, and the self-insured employers, which now represent the largest buyer of healthcare in the US, more than Medicare, 100 million folks, if this percentage of savings in the in-network environment is a thing, like it is in the out-network environment, and just like New York Times blew up with multi-plan, which the in-network scenario would be way worse. But if it is, which I'm pretty positive it is, then that is the smoking gun.
But isn't Charge Master the culprit of everything? Like, if you think about it, my son, when he was 2 years old, got really sick. And I'm a WebMD. I don't know if you knew that, but I am. I'm pretty legit. And I was confident. I was like, he's got mono. And every doctor I talked to, I went to the doctor every single day for a month. He puked every single day for a month. He lost 9 pounds as a 2-year-old,
Jesus
which
Christ, that's
is
scary.
a shitload of weight.
That's scary.
And I was pregnant with my 3rd child, and I was nuts. I was like, there's something wrong with this child. Nobody could figure it out. They did a million tests. They tested for Kawasaki. They tested for Ray's syndrome. They tested for cystic fibrosis. You name it, we got tested for it. I was like, we need to test for mono. They're like, no, nobody has mono at this age. And so we went into the hospital then because he got so dehydrated and he got so sick and he got so weak. And 3 o'clock in the morning, the 3rd night we were there, he's puking up blood and I am flipping out. And there was this doctor, Dr. Joe, who was like 5 foot tall, who comes walking in at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And because I like demanded to speak to a doctor right then and there. And I was like, you need to do something. I need to test for mono right now. And he goes, sorry, where'd you get your medical degree from? And I looked at
Did he
him and I was
test?
like 9 months pregnant, sleeping in a hospital bed.
Yeah, it's a
And I
ruthless
was
thing to say
like,
to someone.
yeah. And I said, I think you might want to call security because I'm about to go ape shit on your ass. Yeah. Sure enough, they called some like nurses in to try and talk me off the rails. And the one nurse came in and she was like, we'll go get a mono test. I was like, really? And they came back in and they were like, you were right. And I was like,
Wow.
I know. All that to say, we were charged $96,000 for that hospital stay. Okay. It was like a $15 test for mono.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not justifying the charge master, but that the charge master, the significance of the charge master goes away once the percentage of savings goes away, right? Because then it's literally just based on it's a real price. It's the contracted rate is the rate, and there is no added fee that the employer or whoever's being charged on top of that.
Yes and no,
Why?
because it depends on who, it depends on if you're using an American Express, a Discover, or a Visa. Those contracts are all going to be different. They're still going to have a charge master. And
Well, the
you're
charge they'll
still
still
not
have a
going to,
charge.
hospitals, Sydney, hospitals aren't run efficiently like any other business. They can't tell you which different J codes go in to make up a surgery. They can't tell you how many screws you're going to need for a hip replacement. They can't tell you exactly what there's no like bundle in a traditional setting for a hospital of an all-encompassing solution for something. They're not sophisticated enough to know that cost. The hilarious thing is, I went to Atrium Health's Diversity Summit when I was a woman-owned business. And I raised my hand and I was real excited to ask this. And I'm like, I'm getting myself like hyped up. Like I'm in a room full of people. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna ask a question and I'm gonna get them real like on their toes. So Deborah Plusha Moore, who was the VP of HR at Atrium Health at the time, I raised my hand and I'm like, how, because they had said that all of their employees get like the best in class pricing for if they use their facilities. And I'm like, so how do you know the cost of something ahead of time? And she goes, I'm happy to say that last year we partnered with Castlight. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And they were like, what? I was like, you had to party with another vendor to know your own costs? And she was like, all of a sudden, it took all of the air out of the room. Everybody else turned around, what? And I was like, so y'all don't even know your own costs. And she was like, Gaslight. And then she's like trying to like fumble over it. And I'm like, dude, this is friggin' nuts. You just said in a room full of entrepreneurs how excited you were to party with a vendor who she mentioned they pay millions of dollars to understand their own costs in their facility. I'm like, that is mind blowing.
It's nuts.
But
That
she didn't
that's
get it at first until she realized it. And then she was like, holy shit, like I shouldn't have said that.
yeah, yeah, wow.
It's
I
crazy.
mean, you hit on the head. Like that's part of the problem is that
Mm.
there's a lot of granularity, yes, and the different plans, fine, you're not wrong there. There just needs to be some standard. At least we have Medicare is a standard, all I want to do is create an infrastructure that facilitates a standard, or at
That's
least
reference-based pricing.
okay, fine. But when I say standard, a contractual standard. So like it's based on you could base your contracts and your pricing off of a reference number, but reference-based pricing is not a contract. The hospital can still
It's
sue
not,
for the charge master, and that's where the percentage of savings comes into play. That's a problem.
for
The
sure.
I reference-based pricing is a
It's a
positive
good
step.
step. Yeah,
Exactly.
totally. It's a step.
It's a positive step. We need a network type standard, i.e. contractual pricing, that allows for the buyers and sellers to transact in a streamlined way.
Sydney, do
Yes.
you know of a company like this?
Yeah, dog. Mishy Health. What up? But that's the whole shtick.
Drop the fishy, go with Mishy.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
I know.
Well, and look, we're making strides. We signed our first hospitals, powering our first insurance plans, starting to get out
Exciting.
there. It should be very positive for the industry. It's wild that some of the things that we're implementing at scale now are so taboo. It's sad to me, especially coming from the revenue cycle world, where I joined healthcare managing hundreds of tables, database tables of thousands of codes, the
Yeah.
16,000 CPT codes, HCPCS, DRG, whatever, and that level of variation across all the different plans. So I started in the
Yeah.
space with that variation. And so the fact that this hospital had to use an outside vendor, to your point, to do something that I was doing for our hundreds of clients in our Northeast region, my dad's billing company, in the first few days of me joining, is sad.
Sad.
Fix it. All right, let's wrap up. Thank you so much for your
Wrap it
time.
up.
Any parting words?
That's your wrap up?
Yeah,
Any parting words?
I leave it all out there on the field.
My parting words are we can do better, right? When you get a bunch of people who are very passionate, whose hearts are in the right place, who know where the deficits are, it's exciting. It's like really exciting to have people. I was so happy to have met you a couple years ago because I feel like real knows real. And it's exciting when authentic people who are altruistic, who are trying to do the right thing, are coming in with new ideas. So I love it. Fresh blood is amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for taking me in. Yeah, and just for everyone's benefit, Rachel and I met at my first conference that
Yeah.
I went to as a newfound entrepreneur and was still figuring out what our
Yeah.
go-to-market strategy was going to be. It was my first foray into the B2B side of healthcare and the buyer side, getting exposed to brokers and
Yeah.
DPC groups. And the fact that cash pay, that I thought was this novel thing, wasn't so novel amongst this group of
Yeah.
innovators. And I walked away from that conference, thankfully, with a couple of friends, because Rachel and another Rachel were super nice and randomly talked to me at some night event and made me feel comfortable and allowed me to wiggle my
Yeah.
way in. And that was like in the beginning of when I was learning how to work a room and
Yeah.
figuring myself out. And
Saw you dancing in a corner by yourself. I was
That's
like,
it.
hey, Bob, what's going on?
You woke the beast. Thankfully.
Yeah,
Who
good.
knows where I would have been if not for you guys. And look, I left that conference with conviction around the platform that we built. And had it
Amazing.
not been for your interaction and the people that I met through talking to you guys, I don't know that we would be having this conversation right now. It was always the hope, but I realized
Yeah.
leaving that conference that the infrastructure was lacking. That direct
Yeah.
contracting, we weren't going to be the first people to do direct contracting. We weren't going to be the first people to talk about cash pay. We weren't the first. And so that first mover was gone. But what I knew that we could be the first mover on was the infrastructure. And we were always positioned to be a tech platform. And this was our chance. And so you gave me conviction to build that.
Love
We
it.
didn't start for another 6 months. But if not for you, who the fuck knows where we'd be? So thank you.
Love it. Welcome.
All right.
Well, this has been fun.
This is awesome. Thanks so much
Yeah.
for doing this. Yeah, there are a lot of good golden nuggets
Yeah.
on here.
Good.
And obviously, I'm going to post the whole thing, obviously, but I like to. Oh yeah, that's part of it. Is that part of the reason why I've been building a backlog too? Is when you have an hour of content, there could be fucking 30 or 50 different videos that are a couple seconds each. You throw
Totally.
as like little zingers, and I'm trying to flood the interwebs and social media with content, and LinkedIn and shit.
Love it.
So, thank you for
Yeah.
playing ball.
You're welcome. And when Mark Cuban starts partnering with you, my only ask of you is that you tell him that I was on the podcast before him. So Nana and a boo boo. Stick his head in doo doo.
Okay,
Be like,
he'll see it.
marking on his hot shit.
He'll see it. Oh yeah, wait, do we hear the story about the podcast where you were talking about the thing that he was then talking about?
A relentless failure. I
Yeah,
thought
yeah,
I sent it to you.
no,
Yeah.
you told me that when we spoke last, but we didn't hear
Well, so it's the
the
relentless failure
team.
podcast. It's just talking about what a scheme like everything is in our marketplace. But when he was on Stacey Richter's podcast, he said some of the very similar stuff that I had said. And I was like, I've been saying this for years.
Yeah, that
People
was
might
right around.
listen to him more because he's taller than me,
Yeah,
I
same.
guess.
It's messed up.
Yeah,
It's messed
I
up.
know.
Yeah, that was when I heard that podcast episode. That was around the time where I had heard from his team, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Now I understand where you're going with all this. And
Amazing.
wow, things work out. But yeah,
I know.
I'll make sure.
I gotta
I'll
put
make sure he
I gotta
sees
put
it.
the baby to bed. It's been amazing. Have a good night.
Thank you too. You're the best.
Later,
Appreciate it.
Gator. Welcome. Bye.
That wraps up today's episode of Off the Rails. Remember, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and other major podcast channels. Don't forget to subscribe to catch all the content. If you like what you hear, please leave us a review and share it with your friends. Your support means a lot and helps us deliver more authentic takes from real change makers. Follow us on Instagram at GoOffTheRails and follow me on Twitter at Sydney Haytoff. Thanks again for listening. Stay genuine and stay true.